I went from working 12-hour shifts to starting my own freelancing business, and ever since then, I haven't looked back. If you're on the journey to starting your freelancing business, then you definitely want to stick around because I'll be sharing you my step-by-step how I went from working 12 hours to starting my freelancing business and the lessons I've learned. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing well. If you're joining me for the first time, welcome. I'm Phoebe, and on this channel we talk all things freelancing and personal growth. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you stick around, subscribe and hit the notification bell. So I'm going to be talking about how I went from being a nurse to becoming a full-time freelancer and all the steps that it took. And I'll definitely say that the road wasn't easy, but I did do a few things that allowed me to take the plunge and leave my full-time job to starting my own freelance business. One of the caveats is that I actually didn't study for what I'm doing now in my freelancing business. I literally just went all in. So if you've ever done anything like this before, let me know in the comments. If you're thinking about leaving your job or you just want to start a side hustle, let me know in the comments. And before I started into freelancing, I was working a 9-to-5 in healthcare, and it was great. I was actually transitioning from the healthcare industry to the project management industry. So I actually transitioned careers. Leaving my full-time job wasn't easy, but the decision was clear. And this was because, having children means that you have to be constantly available. I remember my children being in nursery and the nursery calling me to say, they've got a temperature or they're not feeling well or something along those lines, which meant that I would have to leave work and go and pick them up. Now, I hated the fact that I had to ask for permission to leave. I had to ask somebody about my own time. I mean, I'm a full-grown adult at this point, and I felt like I shouldn't have to ask for permission to, do the things that I need to do, especially as a mother, and do the things that I want to do. And I knew that I wouldn't be in, the 9-to-5 for a very long time, but I just didn't know what I was going to do at this point. So I started exploring things. So my first lesson there is that you need to know your why. Be very clear on why you don't want to work a 9-to-5 or why you want to start something on the side. It's very important to know your why, because that's what's going to keep you going. That's what's going to keep you motivated. For me, it was about being available for my children and making sure that I was there whenever they needed me. I hated rushing up and down, running for the train or running for the bus and all those sorts of things. I didn't like the commute. So it was very clear to me, I had to be closer to where my kids were, and being able to have that flexibility as well was super important to me. And having my own autonomy is also a very big thing for me. But here's the thing, I actually didn't leave straight away. I was still able to do extra shifts here and there and also maintain income coming in while I was still trying to figure this out. So if you want to start your freelancing business, it's also important to make sure that you, number one, have saved enough money at least to cover you if you're still trying to figure things out, or you still have a way to obtain income. However, what some people do is they start their freelancing business alongside their full-time job. So they start doing the prep work. I'll definitely suggest that route, which is essentially kind of what I did as well. So definitely make sure you get clear on why you want to leave, and also making sure that you still have some sort of income before you go all into becoming a freelancer. One of the things that I also found when I was starting my freelancing journey is that I had a lot of imposter syndrome. This meant that it stopped me from doing a lot of things, which meant it was taking me longer to get to my goals. And I'm not just talking about freelancing business, I'm talking about businesses before I even became a freelancer, because like I said, I was exploring before, and I started an events business. I went into coaching as well when I first started. And I've always known, or I've always learnt that, you study for the things that you want to do. So maybe you get some sort of degree or some sort of qualification to say that, you are qualified to do this. I've got a coaching qualification and I have digital marketing as well. I have all sorts of qualifications that I, paid for and did, because I had so much imposter syndrome that I wanted to make sure that I was qualified to deliver the services that I actually wanted to deliver. And that really stopped me from moving forward in my business. In saying that and knowing what I know now, I know that when it comes to business, the thing is, you don't have to have a qualification. You can run a business based on experiences and making sure that you can do what you say you're going to do, right? That's the beauty of business, is that there's no right or wrong way of doing things. Are you getting the results and are you doing it well? So it definitely took me a while to come out of that mindset of feeling like an imposter and learning things over and over again. In saying all of that, don't get caught up in all the endless learning. Like I said, I spent a lot of money on courses and even coaching programs as well to kind of learn a lot of the things that I do know. And you don't need to spend a fortune on it. You need to start with what you know. And one of the things that I did notice is that I was spending a lot of money on the same kinds of programs, but they were just taught in different ways. And this made me realize that your unique selling point, or what's going to be unique about you or what you deliver, is actually you. Most people are teaching a lot of the same things, but what makes them different is, number one, their experiences, and number two, they are the different person. They are what makes it different, because everyone teaches things in a different way, and you'll be relatable to one person and not the other. The way one person does it might work for you, and the way the other person might not work for you. So that's one thing that I kind of realized when I started my journey and paying for all of these courses, is that you become the unique selling point for the services that you're going to provide. So in saying that, we see a lot of people talk about the market is saturated and all those sorts of things. Yes, there's a lot of people doing it, but what makes it different, what makes your service different, is you. You are the one that's going to make your service, the service that you're delivering, the products that you're selling, different, okay? Because the way you might teach something is not the same way another person might teach it or deliver that service. I'll definitely say that the hardest part of starting my freelancing journey is balancing family life and business, because I'm super passionate about both. And not to say that business is more important than family or anything like that, but it's your thing. When I found that I wasn't doing as well in certain areas, it meant that I was leaning more into business. I was doing more research. I was trying to figure things out. I was spending more money on things, and which meant that it was taking time away from my family. I was very involved in the business side, and meant that, it was taking time away from my personal life. So that's something that I definitely have struggled with when I was starting out. So like I said, when I first started, I started a MLM business. I started an events business. I started a community where I was doing workshops and events and bringing guest speakers in and all sorts, which was really, really good. But then on top of that, I wanted to actually start helping people one-to-one. So I then started coaching. And one of the things that I found when I was in coaching is that, like I said, I joined quite a few coaching programs, but one coaching program in particular that I remember joining, we had to build our own, sales funnels, our lead generation funnels, and all those sorts of things using tech tools and things like that. And a lot of people, it was a group coaching course, and a lot of people were struggling with the tech side of things, where I found that bit easy. Lots of people were getting different results. Some people were getting lots and lots of clients because they didn't do any tech work. They focused on what was actually important. but they didn't have anything set up. So, which was quite interesting because that's where I found my niche in terms of what I'm doing today. My next lesson is that you need to focus on your strengths. What is it that you're good at? What is it that you enjoy? If you're starting a freelancing business, these are the things that you need to think about, because this is what is going to keep you. If you don't enjoy something, you won't continue doing it. You won't have that spark to continue and running your business. So you need to find what is it that you're actually good at. Recognizing that I was actually good in tech was key for me. How I did this was recognizing that people in my own group were struggling with tech when I found it easy and offered to help people. And when I also think about it, because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted to when I was part of that coaching group, what I found, and the community that I was growing was doing well, but it just didn't align with me as I was getting, into the whole business industry. So it wasn't aligning with me. So I had to take a step back and say, what is it that I really wanted to do? I looked at all the common themes throughout my career, and one of the common themes that I found was the tech side of things. People always asked me for help. Even when I was working my full-time job, people would ask me for support in helping them with some sort of tool or something on the computer, and organization. So I was very much good in helping people to organize systems. And I remember when I was working in my full-time job as well, and I actually built a system out, which it wasn't my role. I guess it was IT's department, but it was just something that I was frustrated with when I was at full-time work. And I built this whole system to help to improve collaboration between teams. And that system worked so well that I actually started providing training for the whole team and so forth. It was so good that, I still got complimented after I actually left. So that was one of my biggest key moments in my past jobs. Now, I was able to look at the common themes within my career. However, for someone who's starting out your freelancing business, maybe you can't see it in your career. You might want to ask friends and family, what is it that they think that you're good at? What are your strengths? Just getting people's ideas about what they think that you're good at will help you understand what people see in you, because sometimes you don't realize what it is that you're good at. So it's always good to ask people if you don't have that realization of what you're good at. And I think that's something, again, that I kind of struggled with. I did ask friends and family, but nobody actually really knew, because number one, I'm quiet, I do things by myself, and number two, my strengths came from in my work, in my place of work. So that's where I found my strengths, and being able to recognize that during that group coaching program as well helped me to realize where my strengths are. So if you're struggling to know what it is you're good at and you want to start your freelancing business, ask people around you, your friends, colleagues, and family. Ask them about what they see in you. What do they think your strengths are? Also think about, what are people asking you for help for? Okay, that's a good indication of where your skills or your strengths lie. How did I really figure out what it is that I wanted to focus on? So the thing is, when I figured out that systems were a good place to start, that was something that I enjoyed doing, it made sense that I was to help business owners to set up their back-end systems. One of the things that I experienced in the early parts of my journey was kind of like poor client experience. So when I had paid for a course, it took a while for me to get the information that I needed and from the coach, or because they didn't have their own system set up very well. I'm someone that doesn't really like bad experiences or poor customer service, shall I say. So it just made sense that I was to help coaches and consultants or service-based business owners to set up their systems, set up their backend, so that when they do get a client, that everything is kind of automated and people get the information they want on time. So that's how I actually realized what it is that I wanted to do. In understanding just a little bit about what I wanted to do, I started doing some research and looking into what people actually do. And because of all the skills that I had learned in the previous coaching program that I learned, people need to be onboarded, they need to get paid, they need to pay their invoices on time, they need all these reminders and so forth, they need calendars set up. I understood the whole onboarding process of getting a client. So that was my first thing, and that's what I focused on. I focused on the onboarding process, helping coaches or service-based business owners to set up their onboarding process. And because I knew how important it was, and because of the experience that I had, that's all I spoke about. So what I did was I started creating content on Instagram, and that's all I spoke about. I spoke about what was important, the benefits of onboarding process, why you need it. And I just, created content online. Creating content now is a bit more tedious because Instagram was still kind of basic back then. So I didn't need to do all these fancy reels and all those sorts of things. You could create simple videos. You could create one single post, which will give all the information that people needed to know. And you'd have, your simple call to actions, which was super great back then. So that's how I literally landed my first client, was just posting content. And it didn't take long for me to land my first client, because it's something that I knew people already wanted, especially being in a coaching program already. A lesson there is that consistency pays off. You need to make sure that you are consistent all the time, especially in whatever strategy that you choose. And also understanding who your ideal client is. Although I didn't do much research, I knew who my ideal client was because I was already in the space. I was already sort of in the industry. I saw people's struggles. So it was easy for me to talk to them, speak to them about what it is that they're struggling with and why they need to improve their systems, especially if they wanted to grow their business. So making sure that you're consistent and you understand who your ideal client is super important, and you need to know this from the beginning. Now, you might not be in that space already where you know who they are, you know what they want, and all those sorts of things. So what I would definitely suggest to you is to do some research, do some market research. Now, I wish I did market research in the beginning. It's always good to conduct some research. Why do I say this? This is because you start to understand the language that they use. You'll be able to relate to them a lot more, and you know exactly what it is they want, their struggles and their desires, because that is what's going to help you in your marketing. Especially if you want to start creating content, you want to make sure that you are speaking to them and speaking to their issues and their desires, what they actually want. So that's how I started my freelancing journey. I went from working within the healthcare industry to slowly transitioning into freelancing and understanding who my ideal clients were. Looking back at my journey, I'll definitely say that I'm most proud of my perseverance. Now, perseverance is so key. It means to keep going even when you feel like you're not seeing anything coming, because it will come. I'll definitely say that it wasn't smooth in the beginning, because a lot of the freelancing side, I figured it out by myself. Starting is just, I would say, one of the key moments in your career, but when you keep going, you'll start to reap and see the results of, the work that you've been putting in. So if you're thinking about starting your own freelancing business, then I hope this was definitely helpful for you. Let me know in the comments below, and I would love to hear where you're at in your journey. That's it from me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get notified anytime I upload a video. That's it, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.